Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Power Driven Podcast. Today, we're talking about the best trucks you could possibly buy. The ones that are awesome, the ones you should be looking for out there. If you're looking for used trucks, what do you want? There's different kind of, in each generation of like in the Dodge specifically, there's probably like a better and a worse version of like a second gen, third gen type stuff. And we can talk a little bit about Fords and Duramaxes as well. Obviously, we're more Dodge specific. Our knowledge is bigger there, but we do have a fair bit of knowledge elsewhere that we will try to give to you as well. So let's start off with the Dodges because that's what we love. Obviously,
well, first we got to tell people how this conversation came up. I was sitting in my dentist chair and he's like, "Hey, you're a diesel guy. I'm a dentist. All right. So I can tell you how to get your teeth. You tell me what truck should I get?" He's like, "I'm looking for a daily driver, weekend warrior, and I don't want to spend $100,000 on a new truck." So he asked me what model year of Dodge he should buy. And I said, well, 94 to 98, of course. And then I got thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, this is a dentist.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to get his hands elbow deep in a truck. He doesn't want a 25-year-old truck that's been clapped up by a high schooler. And so then I expanded the range and I said 94 to 2007 5.9. And then I got thinking, man, if you lived in a state where there wasn't emissions, some of those newer 6.7s are great. You know, if you don't have emissions in your state, if you have emissions, then, you know, you got to be careful in which year. And so that's what started this whole stupid conversation.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about it. So
you want to start with Dodge trucks?
And it's a common question I get a lot. People are like, we're knuckleheads over here that like work on trucks all the time. And people are like, oh, like what truck should I buy? I was like, that is not a simple question. Like, oh, you have your tow truck. Is it pretty reliable? Has it been good? No. He's like, oh, really? You'd stay away from that? I was like, no, that's all self-inflicted.
Yes. We do self-inflict a lot of pain here. There's no question about that.
So in picking the truck, though, the very first thing, you got to figure out what you actually are going to use it for. Is it a grocery getter, daily driver? Is it a weekend warrior? Do you need to haul a camper up the hill? Is it just the boat to the lake with the kids? I mean, an F-150 will haul a boat.
Yeah. And
it's a way better daily driver than a full-size 3,500 dually.
Yes, very true. So yeah, step one, what are you doing with the truck? You know, so let's say you have decided what you want with the truck, and that now, I mean, any new truck can do what an old truck can do, basically. But, you know, you have a sense of style, so obviously you want a second gen.
I knew that was coming. I really thought that was going to be in the first 30 seconds. You're just like, and cut.
So you're talking 94 to 2002 Dodge Ram second gen.
And there's a lot of changes along the years that happen in that second gen body style. So we're going to start there because that's the first truck I got. It's the first truck you got. It's the first truck you got.
It's the first truck I got.
Yep. So we're going to start with second gens. So in the second gen world, there's two kind of like, there's a big split that happened in 1998. They changed the injection pump. It went from mechanical to electronic. Excuse me.
So that's a half year. So you have a 98 12 valves, a VIN-D, and you have 98 24 valves, or 98 and a half is what Napper somebody would call them if you
something
were telling
I think is interesting on that, just like covering the year split. People wonder why is it a half year? Well, the EPA or whatever, this is a story I believe I've heard somewhere and it made sense, was the EPA said, okay, 98 new emissions, like we have to hit these certain requirements. Cummins was like, hey, we don't, or Dodge, I guess, was like, hey, like we don't actually have this 100% figured out. Can we have another 6 months? And they're like, okay, yep, you got 6 months to figure out your crap. And that's why there's a half year and why Dodge burdened us with having to keep track of, is it early? Is it late? Yep, and that's why the 98 12 valve exists, because they couldn't figure out their new VP44 injection system in time to be able to, produce it for the masses.
Interesting. So there is,
if that's true, it sounds,
whether or not it's true, we are blessed because the 98 is like the cream of the crop 12 valves, because if you get the quad cab where you have the rear doors actually open. So 94, 95, 96, 97, the rear doors do not open. It's just a 2-door. Even if you have the extended cab, there's no doors. So in 98, they offer the quad cab, which is standard going forward in all of VP44s, but you had the quad cab option. That's that half year is the only year you can get that in the 12 valves.
And that gives you those little suicide doors.
It is nice if you have little kids and stuff like that. It does make it a lot easier to put stuff in the back seat.
And having driven newer trucks with suicide doors, I have an F-150 with them. New trucks with bigger suicide doors suck. Like, it's really hard to put groceries in and stuff. Like those little, although the cab is small in a Dodge, those little quad cab doors are small enough you can open them and still walk around them, and they don't block. Like Like Dodge did it right there. Like I thought, oh, this little dinky cab. Well, I drive a Ford sometimes with a little bigger cab, and it sucks. So those little suicide doors are just the right size. They're perfect.
Yeah. And so that's nice. They also updated the interior in 98. So they redesigned like the whole inside of the truck. It's way, way better opinions, I know.
Cool.
But it is a nicer dash, nicer instruments. And so there is that. And then it comes with, you can get the ultimate truck for people they call it the Holy Grail, was the 5-speed quad cab long bed. That was like the super truck of the trucks. But really, it may have been a short bed.
Short bed was
There's
your
a lot
Holy
of
Grail's a long bed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different versions of the Holy Grail.
But the first one I read on Diesel Truck Resource or some forum, it had to be a short bed to be a Holy Grail.
Which it would be more rare. Those are kind of fine. And it has to be the 5-speed, which looking back, I would not get the 5-speed again. I got the 5-speed, swapped it to an automatic. So if you want to go fast in a diesel, I mean, I'm not against 5-speeds. You want to tow with them, they're great. They do have some weak points. The 5-speeds is probably the weakest manual transmission that Dodge put behind it. So that's unfortunate.
First gens Getrags.
Yeah, right there.
They put NVs in a close second.
Oh, okay.
Before we leave first gens behind, if you like the looks of a first gen,
that's it.
Buy it. Other than that, first gens are, in my opinion, a waste of your time. Like they don't handle power well. The trucks, you might as well have a classic 1960s pickup is what it feels like to me.
I mean, their wiring
like if you want a muscle car in a truck, buy first gen.
And they put a powerful motor in basically a covered wagon. I mean, that's the truck that you have, man. That's a first gen. I mean, I drove one with power once, not twice.
And if you like that body style, great. They're great, to people that like that square body look, that's awesome. But they definitely do not handle loads as well. The frame's not as stiff. They're just not as good of a truck. So if you're looking for a truck to work and haul and you don't want to modify a ton of stuff on it, first gen's not really what I wouldn't look at. And they're more expensive than second gens now. So why
they are sought after. They're older.
People that want them, and they know they want them.
And I don't blame anybody for wanting one. If it's it's fine. Just realize what you're getting. That's all we're saying. Like they're very cool for what they are. I fully get that, but they are the least robust vehicle of all the Cummins.
They don't have a lockup trans in their auto. I mean, now that we're done with first gens, you basically just don't want one. If you want one, you already know that you want one, so you're not going to listen to us anyway.
And more power to you. Enjoy the money you're going to spend on that truck to make it anything decent.
But in the second gen, so you hit that 98-year split where you get the quad cab option. So if you have kids or if you ever plan on putting anything in your back seat, that is a nice option there. I'm gonna put a pause on that.
And I grew up in the back seat of a 99. And I'm not a short fellow, even though it looks like I'm short being next to Todd all the time.
How tall are you, by the way, people?
I'm like 6'3", 6'4", whatever. Anyway, because they move the seatbelt into the seat of a 99, you lose like 2 inches of legroom in the back seat. Like it's kind of miserable back there.
Because they thickened up the chair.
Okay,
I grew up in a 99, and then I bought a 97 extended cab, and I went in the back. I just drove it all the time. Well, one time I went in the back seat or rode in the back seat. I was like, dude, this is way better. This is way better. And I was like, started doing measuring. I was like, what is it? So I think they thickened up. What I decided was they thickened up the driver's seat about 1.5 inches, but also the 99 was leather. And so I don't know if they changed the back row of seats or just the leather or whatever made the back a little bit taller as well. And so it's about 2 inches different between the two. And I was like, 2 inches when you have like nothing is a lot.
And my 98's the same. The seat belt's in the back of the seat. So a 98 12 valve Holy Grail truck,
so
your back seat's not as good.
There are some downsides. That's all I'm saying. You're like, oh, quad cab, cool. I don't know.
Fair enough. So as far as like second gens, power wise, there's definitely some better years than others. They came with different injection pumps. They have different power ratings. It was more than just sliding a fuel plate in the same pump. They actually changed the pump components, and that's the real main difference in the power. A little bit of injectors as well, but if you want to make power, the one that comes with the best pump are the 96 and up manual trucks. That have the 215 pump, and that's the pump that's in Uncle Rico making, block splitting pump. Now, obviously we've modified it heavily, but it's very, very similar parts. We just kind of modify the parts. And so that'd
be your 215 pump that people talk about.
That was a bigger concern than it is now because we have all the parts. We can turn any pump into a 215 pump now. So that's not like if you find a real cherry, 160 pump truck you want to get, we can easily get you in a 215 pump with very, very minimal cost compared to what it used to be. You don't have to find a 215 pump.
Back in the past, you had to go find a used 215 pump for $2,000
Yep.
and then pay a pump shop a couple $1,000 to calibrate it. And you're like, man, I just spent as much on the pump as I did on the whole truck.
Now we can just turn your 160 into a 215 pretty easy. So that's not a big deal. But that is technically was like the best. And there was a lot of like people back in the day that thought the 215 was not the best. It was the 180 pump because 180 had the same cam as the 215, but it had the flat top plungers.
They thought 215 plunge. They thought 215 pumps retarded timing as you gave it more throttle, which is completely backwards. It's wrong.
Yeah,
like it's been busted so many times.
I'm sure we're still going to get comments like we're wrong, but no, we have a pump stand. We have verified this over and over and over. They do not retard timing.
Very, very confident.
Retard notch is the wrong term. It's the advanced notch.
Yep.
But back in those early second gens, so 94, 95, they'd be a 160 horsepower. If they were an automatic, they'd be a 175 if they're manual. The pumps are virtually identical, a little different plate calibration. The manual transmissions had the 5 speeds. The auto had an RH, which is still a 47, but it's a hydraulic governor. There's no electronic governor in there. Long term, I've seen wear in those hydraulic governors. You get up there a couple 100,000 miles, and sometimes it's hard to find parts for those. With the RE, on a 96 and newer, the electronics can fail, but you can still buy new electronics for them. And now you have fresh sensors and solenoids. So I would say if you're trying to do a 1,000,000 mile, I don't know if I would want the RH in an automatic because I know the governor weights wear and then it starts wearing on the governor shaft and stuff. And it's just, I think, but I mean, for 300,000 miles, they're fine. So that covers most of those trucks. But other than that, the only other weird thing, you have vacuum boost brakes on 94, 95, 96 and up, you have hydro boost.
96 had vacuum as well.
I thought that was a transition year. It is 97.
96.
Oh. Okay. 94, 95, 96 is vacuum boost. The downside of that is if you have a bad vacuum leak, your brakes get weak. And it's not because there's no vacuum on these diesels. They have a vacuum pump. So if your vacuum pump fails or it's just weak, you can't really boost the brakes. On a hydro boost truck, you can modify the power steering pump and get a little more pressure in there so you can get a little bit better brakes.
I mostly noticed when I did my mods, the power steering pump, I mostly noticed better steering, like lighter steering, but you get problems with, you start drilling, there's an orifice in the fitting. So the line that goes into the power steering pump, there's a fitting that line goes into, and there's a little orifice in there. I don't remember the size, like 100 or something. I bumped it out to like 120 or something like that. And it makes your steering feel way lighter. And it's nice. Like you just one finger steer the thing, but you overheat your fluid. And so you need to run a cooler. And so that's a trade-off. I've kind of stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, unrelated. I just want to go over that a little bit. I will say when I've played around with the vacuum and non-vacuum, like hydro and vacuum, I don't feel like I noticed that big a difference. Some people are like, "Oh my gosh, this is so much better." I was like, "Are you sure your system was healthy?" Like I've never had a complaint. Like I towed with a vacuum boost 96 forever. I could lock them up whenever I wanted. So why do you need more? Now, if you're like backing into a spot or something, you're on and off the brakes, yeah, you deplete that vacuum. And you can tell, like, yeah, it's a little manual braking right now. But for just cruising down the road and coming to a stop, I never felt like it was inadequate.
Let's move on to the VP stuff because there's some still second gens. There's a couple of changes in the VP from 1998 to 2002. 2002 is the last year of the second gen 03s when they went common rail. And so the VPs had some upgrades as well from drum brakes to disc brakes, different power outputs, different pumps. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So the early 98s, that half year, the very first ones, those were a 215 horsepower VP, and they're kind of a odd duck. Most of those VPs have died by now because they weren't very reliable, that particular injection pump. And so they've probably been swapped out with a 235 horse one anyway, which is the standard output's 235 horsepower. Then you, was it 01 they went to or could you get all of the clutch guys say 2000, there's a half year in 2000 when you can get to the high output, but I don't think so. I think it's actually 01 is the first year of the high output VP.
And we should talk about that because that's kind of like a misnomer. It's a high output version, but is it a better pump? Like if you want to make, if you're buying this thinking, hey, I want to make a 500 horsepower truck, should I start with an HO? No. So why is the HO not as good as the SO if you want to make like a 500 horsepower truck?
So in those VP years, they had the standard output or SO, the high output. The high output was 245 horsepower. Standard output was 235, so 10 horsepower difference. But the HO came standard if you got the 6-speed manual, the NV5600, and the standard output had the 5-speed manual or the automatic. That's where the 235 horse came. And from the pump standpoint, the high output has smaller plungers in the injection pump, but a bigger cam or more aggressive cam. And so if I was to relate it to like newer trucks, it seems like it has a little bit more injection pressure, but it doesn't quite have the volume. And so when you want a peppy, spunky truck, the HOs are great. They had a little smaller injector, so they respond better to an injector upgrade. Put the same size injector in both the standard output and HO, there's more gain there. But you add a tuning box like a Quadzilla or an Edge that advances, that adds we call the pump stretch. It adds duration there. There's not as much volume to add duration, and the HO doesn't seem to respond as well to a tuning box. And 500 horsepower back in the day, they called it Big Blue syndrome or BBS. Like there's this guy on the forum, Big Blue from Texas, and then I was called Big Blue 24 valve, and he could never get over 500. And he'd been to like 10 dyno events, done all kinds of mods, different injectors. And to this day, I don't think he ever got over 500 horsepower with his HO truck. Actually, he might have got over after he swapped pumps. He might have. Anyway, I can't remember. This is like 20 years ago.
Right.
But it's known that the HO pumps are not there. But 500 horsepower,
good running truck.
490 is a good running truck in a VP. So if this is like a daily driver tow truck, you're not going for over 500.
Yeah, like we just have our Willard RVP 44, and we put some injectors in it. It's at 430, 450 horsepower, and that thing's a riot. Like it's fun. Like you don't need 800 horsepower like you read or see everywhere if you want to have a fun truck. Like this thing is a riot. It's fun. It's clean. So it doesn't be realistic with your power goes as always. But yeah, if you want to make a decent amount of power, the HO is probably not the way to go. And they swapped axles, right? Went to disc brakes at a certain time.
Yep. There's a split year in 01. You can get 01s in both disc and drum. And so, yeah, if you have a drum brake, this is true for any second gen. If you have a drum brake truck, you can buy the axles from an 01, 02, and you can slide them in, and it's a pretty straightforward swap. But if you want factory disc brakes, that late 01, 02 gives you that. So,
yeah.
And there might be a different pressure biasing with the disc too. I don't know, because usually discs and drums don't want the same amount. I think the
proportioning valve or whatever is. They changed that as well. People normally swap the whole setup. So if you have like a donor truck, that'd be great. Another thing too is that those 01, 02s, the axles, and this is something I've heard, and I don't know, I've never played with it. But you can then upgrade from your 01, 02 like brakes. If you have those disc brake axles front and rear, then you can put 3rd gen brakes on either the front or all the way around or something, and you can get a much bigger diameter brake, because a 2nd gen came with a 16-inch reel, which I think those came with 17s actually, those late 01, 02s. But either way, you can put 3rd gen brakes on them, and then now you really upgraded your braking. Because if you look at the size of the pad and the size of the rotor on a 2nd gen versus a 3rd gen, it's like almost night and day.
Oh wow, so that's nice.
Yeah, which is really good for work truck, tow truck. You need good brakes. It's a good upgrade to do.
So within those VP years, if you were a horse, you wanted to like go after the VP record, it seems like the 98 and 99s it's easier to get the big power out of them, just with the Quadzilla and all that. So that's just kind of, if you're trying to chase goals, it seems like all the highest power trucks are 98, 99 model year. Halfway through 2000, there's some different stuff in there. The 01, 02s, they have torque management. There's some other things there. But yeah, if you're going after horsepower goals, the VP, you're kind of like, rare, odd duck. I don't know how else to say it. That's not really.
Yeah, that's that.
I respect, like, people hate on like, oh, why would you do that? Like, I respect, like, if you're trying to just stick with a platform and try to maximize that platform, it doesn't matter what that is. Like, to me, respect. I think that's fun. I think that's like something I wouldn't mind doing someday, just to see what I can get out of a VP. Like, when you sit there and you try to just maximize one platform, it's a challenge and it's fun.
Yeah, there's some of that. all these trucks we've talked about so far have plenty of power to tow whatever you want to tow.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we can get lots of power out of it. 12 valves,
Yeah, in
44 is
fact,
They
plenty.
ride comfortably. They're great daily drivers. The steering on all of them is terrible. The
Needs
track
help.
bars wear out. And so if you're looking at a truck, check the steering. If it feels all loose and the guy's like, oh, it just needs this, it probably needs like,
Everything.
$5,000 worth of suspension shops
that, might
thrown
be
at
a,
it.
that might be a stretch, but it's not far off.
But in 2003, they changed to what's known as a third gen. And I think they really upped their towing game. The Dodge did, like the
way
radiator's
bigger brakes.
coolers are bigger.
Rated,
And
yeah.
now obviously the
This
body
frame
style
is
changed.
stiffer.
That's why they call it third gen. The body
Yeah.
style changed.
Yep, they boxed the frame. They added way bigger brakes. They added way bigger radiators. Like
Sway
that was
bars are better.
They really upped their game for sure.
Yeah. So if you're thinking, hey, I want something I can do pretty decent towing with, like I want to tow a lot, I want to be the Dodge platform, and I'm going to tow like maybe a decent sized camper or something. You can get away with this. I'm not saying you can't. You totally can, but you may be better off served getting like 03 to 06 5.9 common rail, and because they can handle it better because of what the factory gave them.
Yeah.
And so there's really a change in the third gen. There's kind of two generations in the third gen, right? There's a 03 to 05 and a 06, 07.
Yep.
And what's the main differences there?
Well, the most important difference is 06, 07s came with a mega cab. So, I mean, where I
That
feel
is
about
awesome.
mega cabs. They're
That's a
they're
big
awesome.
truck.
Let's also speak on that. People don't know 94s. You couldn't get an extended cab. There's no such thing as an extended cab 94.
Just single
Just
cab.
regular cabs. Yep. And they also had like 4 paint colors. So if you're not one of the
Wow.
basic paint colors, it's been
Probably
repainted.
white and blue.
Anyway, yeah, red and
Yeah, that
black.
ugly maroon.
yeah. Anyway, so that's obviously the mega cabs is a great big change there, but they also changed the headlights. They got those big old freaking headlights on the 06 to 09
We
third
didn't talk
gen.
about that. Second gen headlights suck on those too.
Glowworms and jam jars for sure.
Glowworms
which,
and jam jars. That's one of our
so if
favorite
you're going to
quotes.
daily drive, the headlights suck. The steering, once it's addressed, it's fine, but it wears.
Just
Oh,
realize
yeah.
what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
But anyway, so back to third gen, the headlights are better.
yeah, the headlights. I mean, they're still Dodge headlights, but they're far better in factory form. And then you can, I mean, like any headlight, you can upgrade them and put something else in there. But you can tell 06, 07 from an 03, 05 because they got the big old headlights versus the 03, 05 has like the bubbles on the bottom that go into the
like
bumper.
Little round little things.
Functional changes in the truck. I mean, there's some slight transmission changes, more electronics in the 06, 07, or actually 05 to 07.
All of the third gen, the transmission got the 48 RE
Yeah, we got the-
upgrade.
got
And
the
there's a
40
little transition in 2003, but for the most part, all of these have a little bit stronger auto.
Which I have an opinion that the 03 and 04 and TV cabled 48 REs are the best shifting 48 RE in those trucks, or 47, 48, any of those trucks. That is like the best. They applied new strategies to the shift strategy and it made it better than a 47, but they haven't gone to the TTVA motor, which just seems to suck. And so not only do you not have a TTVA motor that can go bad, but that TV cable, it just seems to work. It's like the best driving. They changed stuff in the valve body from a 47. Anyway, I'm personally a fan of that 03, 04 TTV cabled.
So if you were
Ford
trying to run
transmission.
the stock auto and get 1 million miles for some
Mhm.
Guinness World Record,
Mhm.
probably 03, 04 auto is going to go longer than the manual even.
Mhm.
That's going to be the
And
longest
those
lasting
trucks
transmission.
came
in
with
that.
narrow bowl, like ISB style pistons, and those ones just seem to burn cleaner. They like all the trucks.
They're
burn
more
clean.
tolerant to like a bad injector. They don't melt down as easy.
Which, like the narrow bowl design, I think it just burns cleaner. I don't know about efficiency, but like, I mean, any truck burns clean when in factory form, but the 05, 07 trucks are just doing all sorts of crazy stuff with timing to try to get it to run clean. Those ones just can run clean, even if you have a basic tune in there, whatever, you're trying to hop it up a little bit. They can still run clean very, very well.
What about power on these 03, 04, all
I
these
don't
years?
know what they came with, but
So the factory, the lowest on the 03, they had a 235 horsepower version, this really weak low output. And then they had the 305, they call it the 305 555, the triple nickel, people call it. So because I had 555 torque. So that was So basically you had a 235 and then a 305 horsepower. And this is in the pickup trucks. You get in the medium duty and there's in buses, there's a bajillion power levels and calibrations, but in the pickup trucks you're there. Then you get 04 and a half. So late 04 all the way up through 07. Then that's a 325 horsepower, 600 foot-pound engine. So there's quite a range of power there. You go from 235 to 325 horsepower. That's a big swing between a standard output and a high output.
Yeah, when you get that bigger power, like my father bought a 06 mega cab, or actually 07 mega cab 5.9. I think it ran great. Like even stock, like I mean, he didn't know at the time, but he really liked it when fourth gear torque converter locked up. He's like, oh man, you can just feel the power.
Yeah, like, overdrive comes in. It's just
like, put tow haul mode in right now, and they'll get in third gear. You know, he's like, really? And so he really liked torque converter lockup was really fun. Like that's when people could actually, they thought it was another gear. I mean, we can talk about that later, but it's not another gear. It's just getting all the power to the transmission. So they actually ran pretty good stock at this power level. They did well. Towed great.
As they went up in power, they totally ditched that NV 4500 5-speed.
Yep.
I got no sound here. NV 5600. So they went to the 6-speed. What about the G56? That started in 05?
Yep. 05 was a split year where I don't know if you could get either or if it was like a certain manufacturing date or whatever. But yeah, they went from an NV 5600 to a G56. And
the G56 is a Mercedes transmission, aluminum case, shifts butter smooth.
Yep.
Compared to
there's a lot of like back and forth of which transmission's better. I mean, I think the NV 5600, it has stronger factory form, it has stronger gear sets, and because it's in a cast iron or steel, whatever case, it doesn't have issues with when the transmission's warm. Because let me back up. When the G56 case gets warm, it's an aluminum case with a steel shafts, steel gear set. When that transmission gets warm, every 10 degrees of transmission temperature loosens up your end play about 1/1000th of an inch. Well, when you get up to 200 degrees, you just loosened up your end play by 12/1000ths of an inch or whatever. And you start getting misalignment with your shafts and your gears, and so it's just more trouble prone, I guess. Well, the NV 5600 doesn't have that. So when it comes to like big power capabilities, the 5600 seems to do way better. But for like a good towing transmission that shifts good and just, goes from point A to point B and tows a trailer, a G56 is a great transmission. Their bearings are way bigger. NV5600s don't have very big bearings, and so like prolonged load over time, they get hot. G56s have way bigger bearings.
Now, a guy that's feeling sporty wanting to bang through the gears,
don't do that. Just stop.
But
automatic.
If they are, the G56 seems to shift smoother and better than the NV5600.
It shifts smoother. The problem with the G56 is they, I don't even call it like the synchro plate. So when you go through gears on a manual transmission, you're basically locking, all the gears are meshed all the time. But all you do is with your shifters, you lock the gear to the shaft. So that one is the one applying a power. And then when you go to the next gear, it unlocks that one and goes to another one. Well, they use like a synchro plate or something that splines to the shaft that then gets splined to the gear when you move your shifter over. Well, the G56 is multiple of the gears have like a little, it's not even quarter inch. It's like 3/16 inch plate that is what's locking the gear to to the manual shaft itself, or the main shaft itself. And so when you hit them fast and just like shock load them with power, they shatter. So don't recommend doing that. But if you have just a good hardworking transmission that you just want to, row gears in it and go tow your trailer, they're a great trans. Just don't put the ATF +4 in there. Put something better.
Another big change happened in 05 or 06. That's very important to guys like you.
Yes,
and so
that's when Dodge/Bosch released the racing ECU.
Yes,
that's the first year. 06-07 is how you get an 849 ECM, and that's when the communication in the truck went to CAN protocol, which then allows us to use a 5-position switch. They added memory to the ECM, so that way we can store 5 tune levels in the trans. The ECU.
Bringing this down to the average guy level, they're much better for street performance, race truck, hot rodding. They do it all, but they're more capable of being tuned for big power.
Yeah, the engine itself is basically the same. What changed is the fact that the ECU can be tuned with CAN, which means now EFI Live works, which means that now you have more RAM capability in the ECU. So what that means to most people is that, first of all, you have an easy to connect 5-position switch where you can click through your tunes. You have a staging limiter that you can put in there. You have
Now, some people don't even understand the 5 positions. So obviously there's 5 power levels on this little switch.
a knob. Yep.
On an 05 or earlier, how do you switch power levels?
So in an 05 and earlier, they don't have enough memory built into the ECU. So it can only store 1 tune. So in order to change power levels, you have to retune the whole truck, key cycles, all that stuff. You can use an MM3, and the MM3 kind of cheats the system by storing the tune files in an SD card, and then it has to like flash, like it overrides some basic parameters. But that's like it's probably a 20 second tune change. It's not bad. You can do it going down the road, but it's not as quick as clicking a switch over. And so the 849, like if you're doing, like for me with like, I have 2nd gens with common rails in them, they all have 849s. It's the racing ECU that Bosch supplied in 06, 07.
To the point that like in the aftermarket, that ECU computer at junkyards is hard to find.
Oh, they're like double the price of any other ECU.
Because half the race truck guys, they upgrade to that if they have an earlier truck, because you can make an 03, 04 run with that ECU. So it's kind of hard with some of the dash and all that. It's not identical, right? There's a couple in the pedal.
Yeah, so they do like a piggyback.
So there's some other stuff there, but that's the big power difference there. Turbo got better in 04.5. We didn't talk about that too. The turbo's a little bit bigger, the HE351.
So the 351 came in manual 03, 04s, and the 341 came in autos in 05 or 06. I actually don't know when. All the turbos.
I know 351 was in those early ones in the auto in the manuals. I had no idea.
Yep.
That's how they did it in the 2nd gens, those 94
HY versus HX.
HY versus HX. All the manual transmissions got HX35, and the manuals got that. The autos got the HY.
Yep.
Except for
which
99.
In factory form, like if you're keeping factory power, a factory turbo is very capable of doing it. But if you're trying to turn it up a little bit, yeah, you're going to have a little bit bigger turbo if you have that manual or an 06, 07 truck.
So the 06, 07, 59, again, 07's a split year. You can get a 07, 59 or an 07, 67. That's that's something to think about. Kind of like the 98, same story.
Yep.
But another thing they did change on the 3rd gens that we actually like is when they upgraded everything, they upgraded the axles. So it's a different axle manufacturer. It's no longer Dana.
Yep.
So
they
Dana's
moved to AM.
Yep. And those are a little bit different ratios. Where 373 is kind of the more norm, where it was 355 or 354 in the Danas.
Yep. So in a 2nd gen, you had a 354 or a 410. And once they moved to AM, that's either a 373 or a 410.
Yeah. And I do like the gear ratio better of the 354 for what I did, because we're out here west where our speed limit's 80 miles an hour. So I am definitely turning more RPM on the freeway than I would like. I wish I had the 354s in my mega cab, but they kind of fixed that with in 07 as far as ratios are concerned.
But as far as like gearing speak, that taller gear ratio, numerically taller, is better for hauling. It lets the engine be in,
quicker from a stop,
turn a little more RPM.
Tone a trailer. It's
And for like most of the country where your speed limit's probably 65,
it's great.
The 354s were quite tall.
Yeah.
354s worked well with a manual trans because they don't have as high of ratio. But with an automatic, a 354 is like almost dumb.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to like lug the crap out of anything in order to be in overdrive going down the highway. I remember hauling a little like 16-foot trailer being like every grade having a downshift.
Yeah.
Stock.
Yeah. If you're not out west, if you're in the mid, in the east where your speed limits are low, it would be a problem. But out here, not an issue.
Yeah.
But if you like want to haul on the weekend, you also want to like hot rod your truck a little bit. I mean, any of the common rails are a lot easier to tune. You can buy a tune from anybody, even the 03s. It's different tuning. It's not EFI Live, but there's tons of tuning and stuff. It's very easy to get 500 horsepower out of any of those model of trucks.
VP, auto, like 12 valves, it's all, getting to that 400, 500 horse is like super well documented. I mean, you can go back through Power Driven's videos and there's probably a how-to somewhere. Like how to get to that level. And 400 horse, like I think if you're towing and this is your legitimate tow truck, you should have 300 horse, 350 horse, 400 horse tows
to the
great.
tire. We're talking
to the tire. 400 horse tows great. You don't need more than that. Like there's really never a point where you need more than 400 horse. But
right.
and like all these trucks will do that just
you
fine.
can tow really, really well with that power level.
Mhm.
I mean, they do great.
So then you get 07.5.
That's where everybody started freaking out because that's when they changed the fuel. That's when they changed the transmission.
That's when they came out with God's gift to mankind. You're gonna think I'm gonna say a 6.7 Conrail.
I know what
I'm
you're
not.
saying. Yeah.
That's when they came out with the 68 RFE.
Oh,
And that
I thought you were going to say diesel exhaust fluid. So it was,
that was later in 07.
I know it's later, but I was like the DPF. What were
So
you
that was a big change in the industry. They went to ultra low sulfur diesel fuel, the 15 parts per million down from whatever it was. And they did
That's
that.
when those little stickers showed up on all the diesel pumps. You know, this is ultra low sulfur instead of low sulfur.
And they did that in order to keep the diesel particular filter alive because the sulfur poisoned it and it made it any blow by or anything in through there would kill the DPF. So they had to change the fuel to keep that alive. To get this warranty period, they still die, but gives the warranty period. This was a great time not to buy a Dodge truck 07, 08. And why is that?
I mean, I feel like that's kind of a true statement about any diesel vehicle at the time.
Yeah.
Like no one had their emission stuff figured out.
Yes.
And so they went to these really restrictive emissions. They put diesel particulate filters on all of the platforms in 07, and because the emission standards changed. And at that time, they didn't have that diesel exhaust fluid or anything. And so all the trucks took a huge penalty in fuel economy in 07 because they went from an 06 that didn't really have much in the way of emissions. They could just let the engine be tuned to run well. And they had, they're just there to now they have this filter in there. Well, this filter plugs up. So how do you clean it out? It's like having creosote in your chimney. You have to have a chimney fire if you don't have a way to clean it out. So they make a chimney fire in your truck, and that takes a whole bunch of fuel to burn that DPF out. And when it's new and you're loaded heavy, it might only have to regenerate every, let's say, 500 or 600 miles. So you might get through a whole tank of fuel before it wastes a few gallons of diesel burning out the DPF. As your truck gets 100, 150,000, even dare I say 300,000, like some of these trucks have, they do a regen every 50 miles. And the truck's limping because it can't regenerate. There's so much soot packed in there. And essentially the key back in 07, 08, they figured out after a while was the aftermarket just deleted everything. They just made a tune because these trucks were offered in foreign countries, government vehicles and stuff that didn't have a DPF in them. And so it's very easy if you're a tuner to just pull a tune out of a truck in Brazil and all of a sudden now you can send it to your buddy in America and say, hey, flash this tune in there. They didn't even have to be like smart. Well, because the factory had made tunes for these without it, the trucks are very capable. And long story short, the aftermarket, I feel like, never figured out how to tune the DPFs to make them survive on any kind of a power level. And then even the factory ones didn't really last past the warranty period. They don't even make DPFs and stuff for those old trucks anymore. So if you're in an emissions controlled state, I wouldn't buy an 07, 08 because
there's no support for you.
There's no support for it, aftermarket or otherwise, unless you're in a place where you can delete the truck. Once they're deleted, they're a fantastic truck. I would say they're very similar to an 06, except you've got a 6.7 engine and you've got this awesome 6-speed transmission. And they're with an exhaust brake. They're a decent tow truck. But
so what happened to fix these issues in the 4th gen? So that 09's is it 10 or 9 the 4th gen came?
09's 4th gen started in the Dodge.
10 is the first 4th gen. 10 is the first 4th gen. 09s, I think, are the most rare vehicle, like year of Dodge Ram in existence.
What changed on the 09 then? Oh, Anyway, keep going.
So I've seen in all my marketplace and just, I mean, I work here. Like I see a lot of trucks. I've seen 109 in my entire life on a marketplace listing. They just don't exist. Like I don't know if that's
when the
just
big
like
financial crash happened.
Yeah, it's like the people buying the trucks.
So the truck sales plummeted.
So fun fact, like if it's like, oh, like this is very common, like when was the first year a 4th gen? Is it 09 or 10? Because they just don't exist.
Yeah.
Like there is no first year. 08 is the last year of a 3rd gen, and 2010 is the first year of a 4th gen. But anyway, and so in 4th gen, I don't know what I think. Like obviously everything matured. They still weren't using DEF in 2010. They did it in their cabin chassis. They started using DEF there, and then it
has a different ECM though, right? In 2010, so they got a little
changed
bit better control.
I'm sure they made it better, and they learned from whatever mistakes and they improved on it. But in 13, that's when they went to DEF, and that's when I would say the emissions matured considerably to where they could actually survive for a while. So
really, if you're gonna keep it like in factory form, 13 and newer is probably going to be your play because it can control.
They have way more support. They have for emissions on stuff. Yeah, if you're trying to keep it intact, I would definitely be doing 13 and up. Yeah, or go old enough where it doesn't matter.
Right. Oh yeah, 07, 59 or older. So those are kind of things. And then so you talked about this amazing thing, the 68 RFE. Why is this so good, especially for a guy like
I mean, people talk about towing, and like if your version of towing is a bass boat or some skis or whatever, sure, get your first gen and go to the lake. It sounds like fun. But if you like tow a good amount, like you actually, I mean, we're talking upper 20,000.
Talking gooseneck trailer, not just bumper
grossing
pull
over
stuff.
Like the high 20s, low 30s. Having 6 speeds with a 68 RFE is just so far superior, because a 48, like the moment you start losing speed, you have to downshift, you're zinging the crap out of it now. And the lockup strategy's crap. Like it waits until you get into your final gear and then grabs the lockup. Like if you do full manual, that's one thing that's awesome about full manuals, that now you have full control. You can lock it, unlock it, do whatever you need to do. But in factory form, most people aren't going to tow with a full manual valve body, because after a while you just get tired of having to grab the stick. You just want it to do its thing. The lockup strategy is not great. That when it's unlocked, it puts a lot of heat into the trans. It just causes a lot of problems. 68's fixed a lot of that. Their lockup strategy is far superior. They've got a double overdrive, which is huge because now if you start losing speed in 6th, and let's just say you get down to like 1700 RPM, you downshift, that puts you in like 2300 RPM, 20, maybe 24. Either way, still very good part of the power band that the truck is very capable of using. You're not screaming the thing. It's great. First gear is way lower. It makes the truck like trying to pull up with
the Torkmer lockup clutch can handle more. The shafts are bigger. The planets are bigger.
Yeah.
It's just designed to handle more weight and load. It's a bigger physical unit.
Yeah,
there's more real estate it takes
up. The planets are like obnoxiously bigger, which 48s don't have problems with planets. So it's like, that's not really fair. The issue with the 68 is basically all of it, and that is why people why it has such a bad name to start with, is that a 48, like it's a good solid transmission. It's got a couple key issues, and then chances are you won't get bit by them, at least not very early on, but you can go in, fix those, and it's awesome. 68s, I think, have such a bad name because there's a lot of little gremlins. And like when you look at what a built 68 costs, you're like, oh my gosh, like that is so much freaking money. Well, the reason for it is because we're having to go through, when we build them, we have to go through and fix so many things. Like a 48, let's just say there's 2 or 3 main key issues that can pop up. Cool, fix those. Now you got a solid transmission. From there, it's all performance. A 68, we're doing like probably a dozen different things just to make a stock transmission run in good stock form. And so they get a bad name. I mean, I can just imagine back in 2008, someone's transmission failed. The performance builder's like, oh, we can fix that. And then it fails again. It's like, oh, crap, we got to fix that. And then it fails again in a different way. And we got to fix that.
Every 3,000 miles it goes out, and then pretty soon the transmission
like,
shop's
put a 48 in it.
They're like, let's 48 swap it.
Yeah, and because the 48 is it was a very easy swap. The length of the transmission's the same. Like, oh, just 48s, we can get them to hold power. It kind of like neutered the 68 growth. But that being said, it's been, what is it, like 18 years, I guess, since then. Yeah. And, we've got, I would say they're slightly more figured out now, and they run really good.
Yeah. You tow very, very, very heavy, and you tow with a lot of power, and you make a lot of power. And every time I drive your truck, especially if it's hooked up to something, it's like, I mean, Ruby's great because the power, but the 4-speed is not a great towing transmission when you come out of a 6-speed. Like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. The first gear with the heavy trailer is huge.
I can say that the fastest I have a GTI Golf. The fastest my GTI Golf has ever merged onto the highway was when it was on the back of my gooseneck trailer
behind
the Tina.
Now, isn't a GTI like a sporty Volkswagen model?
Yeah,
it's not. It's not great. It's even making like the upper end of stock boost. Like apparently stock boost is supposed to be like 12 to 15 and it's like 15. Still trash.
Still faster when it's on the trailer behind Tina. This 4th gen. So yeah, 4th gen's up the game a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think the frames are so much beefier.
Yep.
The sound insulation in the cab is awesome.
Yeah.
They really upped their game. They upped it a decent amount in 2010, but in 13 they really
Steering got better and
massive steering
in 08, right? 08 and up. I don't even
know.
remember where the cutoff is, but they put bigger tie rods and stuff in them.
Oh, 8, that's 3rd gen still.
Yeah, but that
They still
like I
made-
said,
they-
but then the 4th gen's even.
I don't know when the
Again.
steering. I know that a 2010 steering is considerably beefier than a 2007.
But
so I don't
definitely
know
the
where it
4th
changed.
gen. 4th gen has better steering.
Everything just got
Sway
beefier.
bars probably heavier duty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy to think like how big of a jump the 3rd gens were from the 2nd gens, the 4th gens again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but people at this point in time, people like, triple axle camper trailers,
yeah.
toy haulers. I mean, people are hauling like big loads with their trucks now. It's getting more and more common.
Yeah, what
And-
used to
and
be
Dodge's like,
extreme is
yeah.
now like commonplace.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, really, a heavy trailer back in the late 90s was 15,000 pounds. I mean, that was the tow rating on a 3,500, Dodge. I guess they could get 21.5, right?
I don't even know.
But still, that was like in the perfect configuration.
Yeah.
But most of the single rear wheel was about 15,000 pounds, and
Mm-hmm.
now the tow rating on these new trucks is just
Ridiculous.
insane. Aren't they up almost 40,000 pounds? Some of the models
don't-
now.
I think it's
Upper
getting close.
30s?
I don't know
I mean,
if it's
a
40.
semi
Yes.
truck
insane.
legally can do 80. Like you're literally half of a semi truck. I mean, that's
Your
what
little pickup.
yeah, no
Yeah.
license needed. Just put your stuff in there, go down the road 85 miles an hour, have at it.
But I wouldn't be afraid of a new. If you lived in like Idaho doesn't do emissions testing, and so every fly by night shop up there deletes trucks left and right. It's like not a secret anymore because the state just like the legislature's like we're not going to do emissions on diesels anymore. So in that state, if you go buy a used 4th gen, there's about a 90% chance it's already been deleted.
Yeah.
They run great with all the emission stuff out of them, no problems. 6-speed can run great. They're a solid tow truck. But if you're in California, 100% don't buy a truck from Idaho, and that's not an option for you.
Yeah.
If you're in California, if you want any kind of a hot rod, you basically need to be a 97 and older where you
Yep.
don't have to do emissions testing. And yeah,
And then
you
build
can't
it
even-
well so it doesn't just go around smoking everywhere.
We do need to address, though, going back to like we talked about the 68 RFE, but we haven't even addressed the change in engine that happened in 08.
So alongside God's gift to man being the 68
7 and a
RFE.
half.
Thank you.
So alongside God's gift to man, which was a 68 RFE, there's also a secondary gift to man, which is the 6.7 block.
And longer stroke.
Longer stroke, 6.7 crank, 6.7 block, and that thing is an animal.
Yeah, anything making big power nowadays. There's nothing left in the 5.9 world that's like, I mean, sure you can make good power with them, and in your lower classes it's great, but there's nothing in a high level class anywhere that's going to be 5.9
I mean,
based.
For like most people trying to just buy a truck,
Doesn't matter.
that doesn't really matter.
No, you
All
can do
the
fine.
engines will make. It doesn't matter what your engine is. The block and the bottom end in general will handle 700, no problem.
Right.
Just basically factory everything. Do some top end stuff, but that's it. But I would say like the 6.7. I mean, it's super torquey, which is awesome. But that's also probably another reason why the 68s get a bad name is because now not only are they a 6.7 that makes obscene torque compared to a 5.9, but they've got a variable geometry turbo that will
Yeah.
tighten up and really make that thing happy. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of like I can tow at 1400 RPM if I wanted, and it's not good on anything,
Yeah.
but it'll do it.
Yeah.
And so if you just get anyone in the cab and just let them do what they want to do, and the factory shift strategy, I don't know why they did it, but it loves the short shift.
Yeah.
And so it puts you in 6th gear at 1400 RPM, and it's like, yep, you can just live here. It's like, wow,
it
just
works.
just like box of marbles down there, just growling away.
Mhm.
But anyway, so yeah, the 6.7 block is not only stronger, but it also, I mean, it drives just great because of the cubes, and that VGT with the exhaust brake is awesome.
Yes. Now you have a factory exhaust brake. You don't
Yep.
need to buy an aftermarket one, and it works amazing. It's programmable.
Mm-hmm. It
With
makes
tuning.
sounds.
Yes, it sure does. Yeah, it really does. Like, oh my gosh, that's a loud turbo. You get a straight pipe on that thing, it's really hear it. But
So the 4th gens went all the way up to 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think of the 2018 as the new Holy Grail model. because that's before they went to this 5th generation Cummins. And we'll talk about that in a minute and its inherent problems and issues. But those 2018s, those are kind of going up in value. The low mileage ones. There's people that had 5th gens and got disgusted with, you know, being in for warranty and issues so much that a lot of the hot shot guys, I don't see many of them with 5th gens. They're finding good 4th gens with
if you got to work your
lower
truck hard.
miles, and they're, you know, wearing them out and getting another 4th gen. So something to be said. You know, a guy that hot shot tows for a living, you know, this is like pickup truck, but they're basically like a trucker that uses their pickup truck, and they kind of do shorter loads or more expedited freight. Those guys, like I said, they need their truck to work, and they're not picking 12 valves anymore. There's a reason they can't haul that big heavy weight, and you can't find a low mileage 12 valve that
and like a 12 valve or 2nd gen can be modified to do more than it can in factory form, but a hot shot guy's not going to buy another truck, do all the mods and all this
he's
stuff.
gonna wear it out.
No, and do it all again in five years or whatever. So that's true. Keeping on with the 4th gens though, so the 2010 to 2012, they get a bad name for like wiring issues and gremlins. The ECMs kind of suck to tune, like all that stuff. I haven't had that many issues with mine, but you know, there's lemons and everything else. Moving to 13, they went with a dual radiator setup, which I think is interesting. Like, I don't know if they just was out of the budget to buy one big one. So like, I don't know why that happened, but 13, 14 have dual radiators. Those are, I think it's an absolutely fine truck. If you own it, the factory teed off the radiators with plastic like pipes. And so definitely get like some kind of a billet thing, because, you know, you work the truck hard, you get it hot, that plastic cracks and it leaves you stranded without being able to hold any coolant.
Solutions, but that is a problem on the stock trucks.
Yep. But I mean, the interiors really had a jump up in 13. They changed to like more digital dash cluster. It looks way better. Like the interior took a big step up. That's when they added a bunch of soundproofing in the cab too, so it's quieter in there, which is great. Moving on to 15, they went away from the dual radiator. They just went to a single, and then they have the intercooler underneath. And I think that's a really good upgrade for your towing guys, because normally if your intercooler is in front of your radiators, that means as you're making boost and you're putting heat into the intercooler, that intercooler is now putting heat into your radiator. And so the fact that they went to a single radiator that's pretty large and then move the intercooler down below, you're not like having to eat that hot air twice. And so that made a big difference. Again, 15, they went up, better soundproofing again, and the interior's a little bit nicer, similar dash. And then in 17, I forget what they changed in 17. I think it's more interior stuff. And then in 18, they added Apple CarPlay, or CarPlay in general. And so that's when they have the big old dash and like the Tesla screen, or what you can call it.
Yeah.
So that's why the 18 so if you were a digital gadget guy, you're probably looking for an 18, because
but 18's
that's the oldest truck you can get. If you're on a kind of a budget, it's the oldest truck you can get that gives you all those.
Which I'm a different opinion. People like love their big old screen with their controls, whatever. And I'm the guy that's like, if I get hot in the truck, I just want to like go reach towards a knob. Like, I don't have to like swipe through screens trying to find the one to turn off my butt heater. Like, it's like, make it happen.
Let's go. So that's 18. And so that's going to be the beginning of the 5th gen is 19.
5th gens is the first. Yeah.
Now there's been a few issues there.
Yep. They went to actually, Will,
I was looking at buying a new tow truck, because my tow truck is
the worst,
quite old and worn out, and 300,000 miles on it. And my second gen 12 truck is old, and it just doesn't haul as good as my worn out third gen.
As a tow truck, okay? There's no way a 12 valve has a GT55.
After towing with a third gen, like, I don't want to tow with my second gen as much anymore. It's just, I mean, light stuff, it's fine. But like, if I had to haul my big enclosed trailer, that's when I don't like my second gen. It doesn't have airbags on it. I mean, so there's things I could do to make it better. It doesn't have a sway. I added a sway bar in the back of my third gen. So there's things I did to make my third gen better that the second gen doesn't have. But
Meyer had a great towing second gen.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. Is you can't really hate on second gens too much, is because that truck is what you made it into.
Yeah.
Like if you start the build knowing, okay, I want this thing to be an awesome tow truck, basically nothing you've done you would do.
Yeah, yeah. You
But
should
so-
not tow with your.
and so,
I
like,
have Nitto 420s on my second
That's
gen.
not even
That's a tow tire.
That's not even the
So, yeah,
problem.
you have a
The
GT55
problem
on it.
is like what makes it a great tow truck. First of all, great brakes. You've done, I guess, some brakes mods there, but exhaust brake, you haven't done that. You do an exhaust brake, that really helps. You do a
Full manual valve body, it does tow better with that.
I would definitely tow
Control
with a
my
full manual
gears.
valve body or
Yeah.
a 6-speed manual transmission. Those are like the only two ways I would tow with a second gen, or a 68 RV. But that's a conversation for another day. But like the trucks are loud to ride in. You soundproof them, and it really helps. Like, and then second gens, because I mean, a factory fourth gen or third gen, they're much stiffer frames. But you can kind of like almost band-aid that with just getting a dually, which is a good idea if it's a dedicated tow truck anyway. It really just helps, keep the truck planted on the road. My dad's truck, like I went at it trying to make a good towing second gen because that's what he wanted, and he loves it. It tows really well. Every time I tow with it, I'm like, I tow with his second gen, and then I go and tow with Tina, my tow truck, my fourth gen. I'm like selfishly, I wish Tina was remarkably better than the second gen. But I'm like, this actually tows really well. Now the common rail, like it does widen the RPM band. That 6-speed auto really helps towing a little bit. But as far as like the function of the truck, just towing down the highway, they both do really well, and they both make enough power that really downshifting isn't really a problem.
Right.
You can just like kind of hold out a gear just fine. And so I don't want to like say like, oh, if you want to tow anything, like don't own a second gen.
Airbags on your dad's truck
Yep.
too? Yeah.
Yep. And my dad, that's something I'd absolutely do if this is a tow truck. Airbags, and get yourself either an onboard air compressor or whatever where you can fill them and drain them inside the cab. That's like my favorite part of my dad's truck is like when you load up your trailer, you just freaking hit the switch and fill up those bags. You don't have to sit there with like an air compressor or anything. Like that's a mod that my truck's going to get very shortly.
It's true. With that design you did, it is amazing. And there's been more technology coming out. Like the power jet injectors made a huge difference on how clean it is and how much the heat control is insane compared to what it used to be. It used to be hard to tow with power with the 12 valve, but now it's like not even an issue with those power jets. That's just massively different.
Yeah. And originally it had better EGT control than it does now. It had a 472 on the atmosphere. I moved it because it's a 6.1 stroker. I moved it to a 480. And it definitely gets a little bit warmer. I used to like tow it like 1,000 degrees, 1,050 at 45 pounds of boost. Like it was just ridiculous, but it would just make a lot of boost, and that intercooler would poison the radiator. Well, I moved to a 480 on the atmosphere of that setup, and EGTs are definitely a little bit hotter, but the RPM band I can tow in wind up considerably. I can tow at 2,800 RPM, zero problems. No EGT issues. It tows.
Do you notice
really
the difference in the frame stiffness, like when you get a big load twisting in the wind and stuff? That's the other thing I noticed.
The dually,
the difference.
At the dually,
Maybe that's
with
the
a
difference.
gooseneck and a dually. Oh, it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, I'm single rear wheel, high profile. And that's the thing I don't. And Utah's notoriously windy and high speed, and that's where I don't really just love my second gen. Is the twisting in the wind? I just don't feel like it's.
You tow your trailer with your third gen single rear wheel, and then you tow it with this one, the dually 98, my dad's truck.
And I'll bet I'd like the dually better. I think it would be more stable.
Tow better. I was never really a huge believer in the dually unless you needed it for weight carrying capacity. But if you're under like the weight capacity, like the dually doesn't really get you anything. I towed a pretty good bumper pull. I was towing another truck on a trailer, and I was like, wow, this is actually extremely like solid. Like you don't really know what people talk about, and then you feel it. You're like, oh yeah, I can tell for sure.
Gives you confidence behind the wheel.
So second gens can tow just fine.
You just have to build it for it.
That's self-inflicted. Again, most of our problems here are self-inflicted.
Light trailers, I tow with mine all the time. Like if we were gonna go take the kids on dirt bikes to the trailer, great. My little car hauler, and I was picking up like a muscle car. Yeah, my second gen's great, but my enclosed with fully loaded, 15,000 pounds going to race.
I'm excited to get Willard on my big trailer. I think it's gonna do really well. Dually, I think it's gonna do awesome. Honestly,
yeah.
I think it's gonna be great.
That's true. We have Willard, which I mean, I think you're going to. The problem is you're used to towing with so much power.
I know
the 430 horsepower, which is very respectable. You'll have to do something you're not familiar with, and that is downshifting, and you're going to probably dislike that.
You may be right, but I think it'll do the trailer just
I think
fine.
that's going to be a wicked cool tow truck, though.
So
I mean,
you
that's
can make
perfect.
good second gen tow trucks. It's like, don't, I mean, yes, they have upgraded because the levels got higher, and the modern trucks are more capable. But don't be thinking you cannot tow a decent trailer with a second gen. You just got to build the truck for it. It's not the same. So
Yep, for sure. And I mean, I think something that I feel like everyone misses is just soundproofing the cab. You don't want to listen to road noise. You don't want to listen to any of
make
that.
it pleasant.
Like, pull the interior out, put some kill mat or whatever down, and then put it all back in. That really helps. And also just like making the trucks convenient. Like that's what like factory did with the air, and like their air ride, whatever. They have the auto air leveling bags that you put load on the back and it automatically fills the bags. That's awesome. Obviously, I'm not trying to do that on a second gen, but making it easy to air up the bags just like makes that truck feel so much nicer to tow with, because I'm not just worried about anything. I can just like, oh, yeah, put a little air in there, boom. Oh, drop it down a little bit, boom, done.
The nice thing about when you tow the 12 valve, it's probably going to get you where you're going.
That is, yeah, there's like 3 things that could fail on that engine that would somehow leave you stranded. Everything else you could make do with.
Yeah, like it's going to get you there. And that's why people love the mechanical stuff, because it's so reliable. Things don't fail. You don't melt pistons. I mean, we didn't get into that. Some of the issues the Commonwealth's had early on with melted pistons and
just injector issues,
and all that. Yeah, so there's definitely been learning along the way for everything, and that's where they're at now in the 5th gen stuff. So let's talk about that a little bit.
So 5th gen started in 2019. Due to emission standards or whatever, they tremendously lightened up the block.
The whole block is new.
The whole block's new. It's compacted graphite iron. When we heard about that as performance guys, we're like, oh man, factory race block. Yeah. Well, then we found out they pulled 20-something pounds out of the block, and
by thinning up everything, because the metal's stronger. They just said, well, if it's stronger, we need less of it. We're like, oh man.
The main webs aren't as strong. Everything has just been like gutted on the engine block. What's wrong?
Oh, nothing. I was just trying to ask him questions.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, so in 2019 they did that. The other problem that they were trying to address, I don't know if it was really a problem, was you have to adjust the valves. Cummins from the inception back in the 80s, they had solid lifters. So they're a mechanical solid lifter engine, and they had valve lash that you had to adjust. So they had adjustable rocker arms on them. Now the old 12 valves, you had to adjust them every 25,000 miles or so. The newer ones, I think they said, wasn't the interval like 75,000 miles, something crazy.
I don't remember.
Long, 75 or 100,000 miles, which, I mean, who's going to complain about having to pull the valve cover every 100,000 miles and adjust your valve lash? Well, they went to a hydraulic roller lifter in 2019, so there was no lash to adjust. Made the engine quieter, so it helped with their noise, vibration, harshness, their NVH rating. I don't know if it helped with emissions because you can get more aggressive with the roller cam, but long story short, those roller lifters have very small oil feed passages, and they're susceptible to getting blocked. Diesel oil is inherently sooty, especially one with a DPF that's eating EGR all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It blocks those roller lifter oil passages. They collapse. Then it hammers the valve train. And if you don't get in right away when your valves start tapping because the lifters are floating, destroys the cam.
Yeah.
And so these are going out in droves, 2019 and up. They get around 80,000 miles to 120,000 miles. Seems like all of them are losing the cam in them. Or the lifters.
And that's like this is a new 6-liter for Dodge. Like, I mean, those things are going to get changed out like crazy. I mean, there's companies that offer retrofit kits, go back to the solid lifters. There's more companies designing their own version of that. There's a couple different ways to go about it. And
but yeah, they're converting back to the old style lifter.
And I mean, I just wonder when you lose that block, if for whatever reason you have to do a new engine build, I'm thinking, I'm not putting in that block. I'm going to get an old school block because all new stuff should bolt up to it, I imagine.
Yeah.
And so just get your original block, solid lifter, and then you have that to me is like a really good answer for a 19 up truck is get a block.
Because if your old block has that problem, you get that trash going in the oil and they lose the main bearing and a main bearing spins, it's really hard to fix main bearings on a CGI block because of the way the caps and stuff are machined in there. And it's just like, it's cheaper to just replace the block.
Yeah.
And at that point, why would you put another CGI garbage block in there when you can put
CGI's not the problem, it's the design.
So that's kind of what's going on though. So I wouldn't be afraid of a 5th gen. They're a beautiful truck, but I would be afraid of one if it was out of warranty.
Yeah.
And if you were hot shot and you had to depend on your truck for a living, it seems like even those guys are gravitating away from them unless they get that, like, didn't Dodge do like a cross country warranty and they'll give you a replacement truck?
Yeah,
They
they'll
did
give you a
something to
loaner or
like
something, yeah.
restore faith in their trucks to people. But it's like, unless you had some like crazy good warranty thing like that, or it was a lower mileage one, man, I'd be scared when it was out of warranty. And like I said, I wanted to buy one because I thought they looked great. I was going to upgrade my tow truck, and I was like, we'll wait. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Because you were going to buy a 2020 with
Yep.
CP4s and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's some bad injection. I forgot about that. They had CP4 pump problems. Now they've sent, I think they even did a
You went back
technical
to
service bulletin, and they like free retrofitted to the CP3
Yep.
injection pump.
in 2021, they went back to CP3, period.
Interesting.
So,
Well,
so there's just some little.
but now we're back up to real expensive trucks. And these
You're
are all-
talking new. These things were $100,000.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, that was a house.
Yeah. That's not that long ago. So yeah. So anyway, we were like past our time, guys. We were talking about Duramaxes and Fords. If this is interesting to you and you want us to kind of go into other platforms, let us know. But that is the Dodge years. And if you're looking for a truck, these are the things you should know. Like, what do you want to do with the truck? And hopefully we give you some bit of information somewhere along the way that's helpful to you.
I award you no points.
I award you no points. So anyway, guys, we appreciate it. Make sure.
We didn't even talk about the junker drag truck. I feel
Oh my
horrible.
gosh. It was a
Boom.
90. There it is. And it's it.
That's all,
1 hour,
folks.
15 minutes, and we're done. Anyway, help us out, guys. If this is good for you, like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. We want to know if you want to hear about something, let us know. We have gotten some of our ideas from those comments, so it's very helpful. And yeah, we will see you next time on the Power Driven Podcast.